When I ask the class, most of us agree that we know someone who either abuses drugs or is even addicted to drugs. Drugs are a huge problem in today's society. Drugs are introduced to us into our adolescent years, typically around high school. When we attend those high school parties, alcohol is undoubtedly served. We all have that classmate or that friend who smoked tobacco and maybe even marijuana. We put ourselves into peer pressure situations where sometimes it was hard to overcome and say no. However, that decision was ours and ours alone. Drug addicts, on the other hand, make the decision to start using drugs. However, they do not decide when they stop using drugs all on their own. I drink occasionally, and this started in high school. However, I've never had an urge to use drugs. I myself have a brother and a father whom are addicted to drugs, and I've watched them almost my entire life struggle with the ailment of addiction. It's quite sad watching someone that you love deteriorate in every single way, all because of a drug. Drug abuse and drug addiction has many adverse ramifications, not only on the individual addicted to the drugs, but on our society as a whole. So, just what is drug addiction? Drug addiction occurs when people continue to abuse a substance despite the negative consequences that it holds over their lives. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, many parts of the brain are affected in drug addiction. But the 2 points that they make that stand out the most to me are that the frontal cortex of the brain associated with judgment and decision making is damaged after prolonged drug abuse. Also, addiction affects the brain's circuits involved with reward, motivation, memory, and inhibitory control, making it almost impossible for a person to quit using drugs all on their own. The top 5 most addictive drugs in the United States are heroin, nicotine, methadone, and crystal meth. Heroin is an opiate. This drug mimics endorphins, reducing pain and causing pleasure. Crack cocaine causes a fast rush and a sense of euphoria. The intensity of this euphoric high makes it highly addictive. Nicotine reduces the nicotinic receptors inside of the brain, causing a need for more nicotine to be put into the body. Tobacco alone is responsible for 1 out of 5 deaths in the United States yearly. Methadone is a prescription drug that is typically used for treating withdrawal symptoms in heroin addicts. However, the euphoric effects of this drug also make it highly addictive. Crystal meth imitates dopamine and the alertness chemicals inside of our brains and causes them to release more of these neurons. Crystal meth also damages these neurons, causing a need for more and more of this drug to be put inside of the body. It is arguably the hardest drug addiction to overcome. People rarely make it over a year clean and sober. So, how do drug addicts affect our society? Well, the financial costs, according to the National Drug Abuse Institute, are quite shocking. Illegal drugs alone cost taxpayers approximately $181 billion per year. These costs come from the healthcare, crime and imprisonment, drug enforcement, and productivity loss of the drug addicts. The effects that drug addictions have over an individual are powerful. Addicts tend to lose their jobs, their homes, many of their possessions. They also tend to involve themselves in numerous types of criminal activity. And what I think is the saddest of all is that drug addicts typically lose all of their family ties and most of their closest relationships. They lose the trust of the ones that they love the most, and they hurt the ones that they love the most. The good news is that if an addict is willing to overcome their addiction, there are many options. There are over 14,000 treatment facilities in the United States alone. Treatment plans typically start out with a detox period. In the detox, an addict will be medically observed during their withdrawal symptoms. The withdrawals of drugs can be very harmful and are often treated with medications. When someone is addicted to drugs for so long, their body gets used to having those drugs inside their system and becomes dependent on those. So the withdrawals are needed to be observed very carefully. After detoxing, there are many different forms of counseling and behavioral therapy. So let's review. Drug addiction has many detrimental effects on society and on the individual themselves, along with their fellow man. As Russell Brand said, the mentality and behavior of a drug addict is wholly irrational until you understand that they are completely powerless over their addiction, and without structured help, they have no hope.